So, okay, class 9, let's start with lines number 23, right? The previous speech we did yesterday, where we read about the anxiety of Selenio had its ships been there on the sea, fine. So, Salarino, he also spoke how anxious he would feel if his ships had been there on the ocean. Now, see the speech of Salarino, lines number 23. My wind, cooling my broth, would blow me to an ague when I thought what harm a wind too great at sea might do. Fine. So what he is saying, Celerino is talking that if his ships had been there on the sea, everything would remind him about his ships. Clear? So what are the things that would remind his about his ships were? What he's saying? My wind cooling my broth. Wind means breath. Clear? What he's saying? That if I had any ships sailing upon the sea, clear, then my thoughts would travel to them. My winds cooling my broth, even when I were cooling the hot soup with my breath. Clear? My breath, whenever I blow upon my soup to cool it, so my breath would blow me to an ague. Clear? So that breath of mine, clear, it reminds me of the dangerous winds. Clear? And the very thought that the furious wind, clear, the very thought that the fury of the wind might do some damage to my ship, it would begin to make me tremble. What does it mean by ague? Ague means a fever with shivering. So whenever I blow upon my on my soup to cool it, so my breath remind me of the furious winds on the sea. Clear? That might damage my ship. And the very thought of that, the fury of the wind might do some damage to my ships, clear, it would begin to make me tremble in the same way as a man suffering from a high fever trembles. Clear? Whenever a person suffering from a high fever, he trembles, he shivers. So what he is saying, the very thought of the furious wind, the very thought of the destruction of my ships by the furious wind, it would make me tremble in the same way, clear, as the high fever makes the man tremble. Is it clear? So this is the first thing that remind him of his ships, his breath. Whenever he cool his hot soup with his breath by blowing upon it, it remind him of the furious winds. Fine. I should not see the sandy hourglass run, but I should think of shallows and of flats, and see my wealthy Andrew docked in sand, wailing her high top lower than her ribs, to kiss her burial. What I should not see the sandy hourglass run. So, children, what is the sandy hourglass? You might have seen in some movies or in some historical plays an apparatus, clear, which two spheres, which two parts, where the two parts of the glass they are joined together, and it is having a tiny hole between them, clear, through which the sand run from one glass to another glass, from one sphere to another sphere, right? In an hour. Right? So the previous time, this apparatus, sand hourglass, it is used to indicate the time. Before watches become common, clear, this apparatus is used to indicate the time. Clear? So what he's saying, I should not see the sandy hourglass run, but I should think of the shallows Shallow means, what is a shallow? Shallows means the place of the sea where the water is shallow, where the water is less. Clear? And flats means sandbanks. So where the water is less, so what can happen to the ship? The ship may stuck there and it may turn aside. Is it clear? So he's saying, I should not see the sandy hourglass strand, but I should think of shallows and of flats. The very sight of the sand running out of the hourglass, whenever I see the sand that is running out of the hourglass, it would make me think, it reminds me of the shallows and sandbanks. It reminds me of the sandbanks and the shallow water. And see my wealthy Andrew docked in sand. See, children, what is Andrew? Andrew is a common name for a big ship. Fine, children. So Andrew was a name that was commonly used for the commercial ships that time. So what he's saying, whenever he saw the sand running through the hourglass, it reminds him of the sandbanks and the shallow water. And see my wealthy Andrew docked in sand, and I see my wealthy Andrew, my richly laden ship docked in sand. It gets stuck in sand. I imagine, taking on that my ship at the shallow waters at the sandbanks, I imagine that my ships might have run aground. My ship might have stuck in sand and might overturn, veiling her high top lower than her ribs, and it is lowering her top of the mast lower than her ribs. I found my ship, it has overturned, it might have overturned with its top mast sail, clear, plunging low into the water and getting buried in sand. So top mast, the top sail of the ship, it is touching the ground, means I imagine that my ship has overturned over there. Fine. Should I go to church and see the holy edifice of stone and not bethink me straight of dangerous rocks with touching, but my gentle vessel's side would scatter all her spices on the stream and rob the roaring water with my silk. And should I go to church and see the holy edifice of stone? And whenever I go to church and see the holy edifice, edifice means building, and I see the buildings of stones over there, and not bethink me straight of dangerous, not bethink me straight of dangerous rocks. What he is saying, if I were visiting a church, clear, then the very sight of the sacred stone building, it would make me straight away, it would make me think straight away of the dangerous rocks in the ocean, which touching but my gentle vessel's side would scatter all her spices on the stream. And I would imagine that, which touching by my gentle vessel, vessel here means ship, clear, or container. I imagine, clear, that if my gentle ship were even to touch those rocks, clear, even the side of my ships touch those rocks, would scatter all her spices on the stream, then what would happen? Even the side of my ship touch those dangerous rocks, the ship would get wrecked, and the cargo, clear, would scatter all her spices on the stream, and the cargo consisted of spices, and rob the roaring water with myself, and my ship that was having the spices, that was having the silk, it would get scattered on the ocean, clear, and would cover the stormy surface of the ocean with the silk serving as a kind of rope for it. What is saying, if these rocks, these dangerous rocks, if they touch, if even the side of my gentle vessel, my ship would get scattered, and everything that is there in the ship, with the spices, the silk ropes, they would scatter on the ocean. Clear? And the silk would cover, my silk would cover the stormy surface of the ocean as a kind of a cloth for it. And in a word, but even now worth this, and now worth nothing. In short, and in a word, in short, but even now worth this, and now worth nothing. I would imagine that all my goods, clear, which were worth a lot of money, the spices, the silk, that worth a lot of money, they would be completely lost. Clear? Now worth nothing. They would be completely lost, and all the investment on them completely gone. Clear? Why? Once his spices, his silk, if they get scattered into the water, they become useless, and all his money gone waste. Shall I have the thought to think on this, or shall I like the thought that such a thing, chance, would make me sad? Shall I have the thought to think on this, or and shall I like the thought that such a thing, chance, would make me sad? So what is saying? Would it be possible for me to think of all these things and yet not worry about the possibility? Can it be possible for me that I think about all these dangers and I would not be sad? And shall I like the thought that such a thing, chance, would make me sad? So what he's saying, shall I have the thought to think on this, or shall I lack the thought? Now he said, since I can imagine the possibility of such a wreck, or shall I lack the thought, I can also imagine that if such a thing should actually happen, that such a thing be chance, if such a thing chancefully, be chance means chancefully, if such a thing chancefully happen, it would make me sad. Is it clear? But tell not me. I know Antonio is said to think upon his merchandise. So he said, Antonio, you cannot contradict me. Fine? I know that you are sad, Antonio is sad as he think upon his ships. Clear? As he's thinking about his ships, and that's why he is sad. So this is the expected cause that Celerino has given for Antonio's sadness. He said that he is sad because of his ships. Fine. So here Antonio contradict him. He told him that he is not sad about his ships, and he gave certain reasons for that. So what Antonio is saying, Antonio, believe me. No, he said, believe me that I am not sad because of my ships. I thank my fortune for it, and I'm very thankful my fortune for it. My ventures are not in one bottom trusted. What is the reason? Because my ventures, I thank my fortune because all my ventures, all my money is not invested in one ship. My ventures are not in one bottom trusted. My all money is not invested in one ship, nor to one place. Clear? Neither my ships are sailing to the same direction, nor is my whole state upon the fortune of this present year. And besides this, my entire wealth, my financial position, clear, has not been, my entire wealth has not been invested in the current year straight. My financial position does not depend on the current year's trade. Therefore, my merchandise makes me not sad, and that's why I am not sad because of my ships, because of my merchandise. So this is the reason Antonio gave. He said because his money was not invested in one ship, his ships are not going to the same direction. Moreover, his entire wealth has not been invested in the current year's trade, and that is the reason he is not sad about his ships. Is it clear? So this is the first reason that Selenio and Celerino give about Antonio's melancholy and how Antonio contradict them. Revise it till here. Rest we will do tomorrow. Thank you.